And a pleasant good evening. We say hello from our Spurs Live desk with my partner in crime, TJ Ford. I'm Dan Weiss. It's great to have you with us here this evening. Let's take a look at what's coming up on this edition of Spurs Live as we count you down to tip-off Spurs and Mavericks. How about the Spurs trio of Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, and Keldon Johnson erupting for 20 or more the other night. Again, we do it one more time with the Mavs this year. We'll look at Harrison Barnes and why he's been so good from the corners this year. We'll have TJ's keys to victory tonight as the Spurs look for a split in this two-game baseball-style series with the Mavericks. And TJ, the other night, again, wasn't the offense that was the issue for the Spurs, and we'll focus on that, but just a lot of easy buckets conceded to the Mavericks, particularly in that second half.
Yeah, when you look at the stats and you look at the game, it's pretty much an even game, but when you go to the foul line and see the amount of attempts that the Dallas Mavericks was able to have, it allowed to slow down the pace and the tempo and allowed them to go to the free throw line where they was very efficient going, only missing 3 free throws, and that was a big key to the game.
Yeah, here was the good, though, for the Spurs, as I mentioned. Harrison Barnes, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, TJ, they all played out of their mind. I loved watching Harrison Barnes because we're so used to him shooting out on the perimeter, but man, did he mix up his game so well the other night.
Veteran player, when you look at his ability of being able to make 3 threes in a row from the corner, which we saw in the first half, and then being able to transition to be able to pump fake, put the ball on the floor and get to the basket, it made even open looks for Castle and for even Johnson being able to maintain those different attacks from that shooting guard, small forward area on the basketball court.
So again, just not to take away from Harrison's night, 29 points, 8 of 12, but I thought Keldon was phenomenal in the second half, did all he could to try to will the Spurs back into that game to try to get him over the hump. But, you can never fault Keldon's energy when he's out there on the floor.
No, he should be somewhere in the category of a guy that's been most improved, because when you look at what he's been able to do this season, being efficient, being able to be very dependable coming off the bench, and finding him establish himself as the type of basketball player that he'll be in this NBA, I think he's doing a fine job. And I think he found his niche in this space with the Spurs team as being a guy that comes off the bench, and he's very productive.
And Devin got started with a solid first quarter the other night. He'll look to continue that here tonight. Here's Mitch Johnson with his thoughts after the game.
I thought that the effort and intention was there for the most part. I thought sometimes we got a little outside of ourselves in terms of some inappropriate fouls early on. And then even in the third quarter there a little bit, some of the straight line drives and point of attack defense was not up to par, and that allowed them to get in the paint, draw some fouls, offensive rebounds. They were just putting immense pressure on the paint, and a lot of that I thought was point of attack. Early on, they hurt us a little bit off ball, but some of that just point of attack defense hurt us there for a stretch. And then obviously, the free throws and some of those fouls, I think that almost would add up to almost 15 points when you talk about the margin of error, and as close of a game that is, that's hard to make up.
Yeah, not only did the fact that the Mavericks were plus 13 from the foul line, but the Spurs missed 10 free throws in that game as well, too. So they left a lot of points on the table as well.
The game was won at the free throw line, and the Dallas Mavericks was able to execute, getting up there, concentrating, and knocking them down. And obviously that was a big difference in the game.
So as we said at the top, the offense really hasn't been the issue here for the Spurs, even going back over the last couple of weeks. In fact, going back to February 26th in Houston, here are their rankings, TJ. They're top 10 in just about all the offensive categories right now.
They've been a big of a difference team after the All-Star break. We talked about before then we had struggles in the third quarter where these guys have been able to fix the issues offensively. I mean, obviously, sometimes when you fix teams offensively, your defense lack a little bit. But also when you take a big guy like Victor away from the basket, it changes every statistic that you can have defensively.
Yeah, and I think, the one thing that we've obviously focused on a lot here has been the rebounding and the second chance points and the offensive rebounding. And I actually thought that was one area. Now, granted, the Mavericks playing small right now. They're playing, Dwight Powell at center. Spurs are rolling out a small ball lineup themselves. It looked like Harrison Barnes was playing the 5 at times the other night. But I thought their effort on the boards the other night was encouraging.
Oh, the boards, they did an amazing job. I think it was a really good game. When you look at the Dallas Mavericks having multiple guys that are 6'6" and bigger being able to handle the basketball, it's a little different. So even though they were shorthanded, they have multiple guys that have multiple attributes attributes that they can use on the court, and they obviously did that. So tonight, we got to be able to limit those guys from their decision-making and making it so easy for them to make plays for each other. It's going to be impossible to win any game in the NBA if you give 4 guys plus 20-plus points.
We've been talking how good the Spurs bench has been since the All-Star break, TJ, and the numbers certainly bear it out. In fact, if you take a look, Keldon Johnson, Steph Castle, they are 1 and 2 in bench scoring since the All-Star break.
Oh, it's amazing. When you look at Johnson, like I said, it's been very consistent. When you look at Castle being able to have a player that you can put in the starting lineup, a guy that you can also bring off the bench and still keep his productivity there. And just a rookie guy being able to continue to get better after All-Star, he has to be one of the top players up for Rookie of the Year.
Is he more comfortable now in his role, knowing at least that he's coming off the bench, and he's been coming off the bench consistently here, over the past month or so?
Well, I just look at it as this is the type of temperament you want as a guard. This is a guy that's used to winning. This is a guy that no matter what the record is, no matter who's on the court for the opposing team or who's suiting up for the Spurs, this guy is ready to play and ready to compete every single night. So when you look at that attitude and you're looking at that mentality, Spurs fans have to really enjoy that because he's going to bring winning to this program.
Well, the Spurs had 3 players with 20 or more points the other night. The problem was the Mavericks had 4 with 20 or more the other night. And the first 3 may not surprise you, but it's that last guy, Kessler Edwards, who had a career night. He's on a 2-way contract, 22 points, 11 rebounds, kind of came out of nowhere. And I thought he was a big wild card in their win.
That's the great thing about the NBA. Guys been doing everything in their ability to live out their dream, and guys are going through the G League, doing everything possible way to try to get on that basketball court. And he's been able to showcase what his talents and what he's been working at being able to do. And he's been very productive with his opportunity.
And we've been saying all along, we were saying it before the game, this Mavericks team is a good basketball team. They got good players. Klay Thompson, obviously, is one of the best shooters of all time. Spencer Dinwiddie is a bucket getter. He's been a bucket getter ever since he came out of Colorado. Najee Marshall has excelled in this system. Jason Kidd's got some players. Yeah, they've only got 8 of them right now, but those 8 know that they're getting playing time, and they're making the most of it.
Just being in that locker room, you understand what's at stake. You understand that with the major trade that happened, guys in the locker room feel like the fans feel like they can't win a championship. They may not be able to make the playoffs, and those guys are sitting there saying, we're still one good of a team. We still want to be able to show the Dallas Mavericks fans that we are still a contender, and these guys are just holding the fork down until they get healthy.
Yeah, and they may get some pieces back. They may get Gafford. They may get Lively back. That would obviously help them tremendously in the middle. As you take a look at the Western Conference standings, that was a huge win for Dallas the other night because it was coupled with a loss by the Suns in Memphis, so it gave the Mavs a little bit of breathing room in that number 10 spot. 2.5 games up on the Suns. Kings lost as well in LA. Kawhi Leonard had the game winner, so they're only a game back of the Kings. And I mean, that 7 through 10 is just madness right now.
This is a great time. You talk about March Madness and college basketball, but it's March Madness for the NBA as well because teams are getting ready to fight for positions, and every game is important as they come down this final stretch here of the getting ready for the postseason. So, every game matters. We were just talking about on Monday, if we was able to get that win, the position that would put the Spurs in. So now it kind of puts us back behind the 8 ball a little bit with an uphill battle to fight. And it's going to go down to the wire between those teams.
Yeah. And at the top of the standings, you had Oklahoma City and Denver split their 2-game baseball series. And you got a fun one tonight in Boston. Oklahoma City and the Celtics playing tonight. Possible finals preview.
Oh, you know what it is. The Eastern Conference versus the Western Conference. This is a matchup that people are probably looking at today of saying this could potentially be the NBA Finals. And OKC is a young club that's going to go in there and try to show the Celtics what they're made of. And hopefully it's a good game tonight.
Well, you've been assimilating very well to this gig, but I heard you like some other gigs on our TV telecast here. Look at you taking a look at the camera there.
Man, just trying to see how they do all the highlights and trying to get a part of it. Maybe I can do a game and see if the fans enjoy it.
Spurs Live continues. So Harrison Barnes and his wife, Brittany, they were out on the west side yesterday dedicating a refurbished court at the Guadalupe Community Center, all part of the Harrison and Brittany Barnes Community Fund that is refurbishing courts in underserved communities, not only here in San Antonio, but also in Austin and in Mexico. I mean, TJ, we were talking a couple weeks ago in Austin about Harrison Barnes and his wife, Brittany, their donation to the Alamo Colleges and the Alamo Promise Fund of $250,000. This guy hasn't even been here a year. and he has made a massive, massive impact in the South Texas community.
I mean, those type of players the organization want to have within their organization, a guy that loves to give back, a guy that's entrenching himself into the community and making a difference on kids' lives. And you got to give a big credit to Miss Barnes as well for being able to be by her husband's side as they continue to use great resources that they have to impact lives all over the country.
And we were talking before about his great three-point shooting, TJ. And I mean, the other night, again, it was phenomenal when you take a look at this guy. I mean, he's just an automatic bucket getter from that right corner.
Mr. Consistent. He's been a consistent basketball player throughout his entire career, and he continued to be very efficient and very productive. And when you put him in the corner, and no matter if it's on the left corner or the right corner, he's almost automatic from those areas. And he's been very, very good during this stretch when Wemby's been out.
Yeah, 43%. That's a career high. It's career high true shooting percentage and effective field goal percentage. He's number 6 overall among three-point leaders in the NBA. I mean, it's been a treat to watch him shoot the ball because it fills an area that the Spurs were, I think, severely lacking in the offseason, and it's an area they've addressed, and they've really improved in kind of getting back up to where everybody else is in the NBA in terms of the long ball.
Oh, you got to have the three ball to be able to be effective in this league, and he's a guy that's been consistent being able to knock it down. But when you look at the things that he provides for any team, the leadership, not only just the leadership within the locker room, but just leadership of a guy that knows how to work, is going to come in every day and work his tail off, and that productivity is shown on the court.
So that's 43% overall from downtown. But how about the corner, TJ? And when you take a look at what Harrison Barnes has done this year, corner threes, almost 48%. That's number 3 in the NBA. I mean, I'll ask you, why do guys, I get that the distance is certainly favorable, but why do guys gravitate to the corner, do you think?
I don't know. The rules have kind of changed, right? When I played, you put all the guys that could not shoot at all, you put them in the corner for them to shoot those shorter corner threes, and I was one of those guys, and many shots wasn't getting to that area. But when you look at the way the game is played now, being able to more 4-out, 1-in perimeter type game where you get in the paint very open and guys are able to drive and kick and you get more ball movement. You get an opportunity to be able to let that thing fly pretty fast. And when you look at the comfortability for most players, that's one of the easiest shots in the league. And that's a shot that's pretty much you get a lot of attempts, but now I'm just excited and wish I could have had those attempts.
What was your most comfortable spot on the floor?
I would probably say the corner. I think I shot a great percentage from the corner, just like those guys. I don't think I was in the top 5 or top 10. I wish I'd have got more attempts up. But when you look at Harrison Barnes and what he's been able to do, man, this guy longevity and his mentality and mindset of continuing to get better, he continues to showcase it every year.
And just to put a bow on how good his night was the other night, TJ, it was the 5th best shooting night in the NBA this season on 10 or more attempts, 5 or more three-pointers, 86%. He missed just 2 shots on 14 attempts.
That's very impressive, and especially in a time where, you know, every night it's going to be a different player. It has been a different player every night for the Spurs as we dealing with guys in and out of the lineup and dealing with Wemby being out for the remainder of the season. So he's been pulling these guys together. I think he's been there every single game trying to compete and trying to give the team the best chance of winning. His productivity has been immaculate. And
he's been Mr. Consistent, so you expect another good one tonight from Harrison Barnes as he looks to lead the Spurs to a split against the Dallas Mavericks in this 2-game series. And the Her Time to Play initiative has been really successful for the Spurs, both locally and internationally. They did a big thing out in Paris when they were out there as well for the week, too, with the young ladies. And so nice to see Keldon and Julian get out there and ball with the young women.
Oh, you love to be able to see guys interact, and not just interact, but be able to be really into it and really engaged. And that's fun for the kids, and I always love seeing athletes being able to put smiles on kids' faces.
So tonight, TJ, marks the final baseball series of the season for the Spurs. Can't remember if I've asked you this before, but this is what the breakdown's been this year. It's been sort of favorable to the home team, but overall it's been really, I think, irrelevant in terms of having 2 games at home for being the home team to go out and win 2 games. You kind of treat it like the first 2 games of a playoff series, but more and more we see teams have been able to be on the road, like the Mavericks, come in and get a win, not intimidated in playing 2 games at one venue against the same team.
Yeah, very new, very uncharacteristic, because you would really think if I beat a team one time, I'll be able to come back and beat them again. But it's obviously been very close in splits, and teams have been able to go on the road and get that second win or either the first one. So it's been very different for me because my expectations, whoever win the first game, it would be pretty easy to win the second. It just haven't been the case.
And usually in a playoff series, and again, this was probably traditionally back in your case, the playoffs never started until a team went on the road, but that first 2 games always seemed to be the home team would come away with the first 2 in a 7-game series.
Yeah, it's tough. I just think now when you look at it, every night in the NBA, it's challenging, right? Because some teams may play well, be effective the night before, but being able to see them make the adjustments has been kind of hit or miss on my end. So it's kind of odd to not see guys be as productive and use the influence that they had on the first game, the second game. So, I think you would probably have to answer that question better than I could.
Well, we'll see. All time, the home team, slight edge. They win about 54% of the time in these baseball series. Here are the upcoming 3 games for the Spurs. Again, Mavericks here tonight, all here at the Frostbank Center. Mavericks number 10 in the Western Conference at 33 and 33. And then you get another back-to-back this weekend, TJ, with LaMelo Ball and the Charlotte Hornets. You cannot feel like ignore the record there. Charlotte's been playing some good basketball here lately, and so too have the New Orleans Pelicans, who have been here on Saturday night. Zion Williamson's trying to prove something here in these last few games of the regular season.
Yeah, it's at the end of the season. You got some tough ball clubs that's not in the race for doing very, very much. But when you look at it, you got Charlotte Hornets and you got New Orleans that's playing well. And obviously New Orleans was able to beat us a few weeks ago on the road. And they come in our hometown, another back-to-back. But can't get to those games until we get to tonight's game.
Yeah, let's get through this one first before we worry about Charlotte and New Orleans. And that, my friend, takes us to your keys to victory tonight for the Spurs.
Yeah, it's going to be important to be able to play hard without fouling. We did a good job of being able to get out, executing our pace, our tempo, establishing ourselves on both ends, but fouling prevented those things. And then tonight, right from the get-go, we want to be able to establish the mentality and the physical focus that it's going to take for 48 minutes to be able to go against this team that's definitely coming in with confidence, thinking they can come in and steal another game. And the other thing is you cannot allow multiple players with 20-plus points. The Mavs was able to pretty much have a lot of their guys in double figures, but giving 4 guys 20-plus points, it's going to be hard to win if you do that.
That mental focus, that middle key, that is so critical, particularly on the defensive end, because it's all about communication. It's all about knowing the rotations, the switches. The Spurs were on the second night of a back-to-back. They got back at 2 o'clock in the morning from Minneapolis. I think it's very fair to say that sometimes your brain is a little bit lost when you come out and play that game. That mental focus should be a lot fresher here tonight on the defensive.
Yeah, you should be fresh with a day of rest, but at the same time, just being able to adjust to how the refs are reffing the game. And obviously, sometimes when you're dealing with getting in late, you are a little sluggish with your closeout. You are a little delirious a little bit at times. But tonight, with a day of rest, they should come out with more focus. I'm sure they're going to clean up those areas and not put the Mavs on the foul line.
And at the same time, the Spurs really should be able to utilize their depth again against the Mavericks team that only has 8 available players here tonight.
Well, I would love to use that scenario. I think I tried that on Monday. It didn't work, right? Because their 8 players was locked in. They was focused. I think they understand the mission that they got to be able to try to protect as many wins as they possibly can, and not fall too back behind in the standings. So those guys are veterans over there, and they was able to step up to the plate and bring the energy, the passion, and also the focus it took for them to win.
Yeah, still hanging on to that number 10 spot in the Western Conference play-in tournament, so they are not going to go quietly here tonight in the sunset in San Antonio. Spurs, Mavericks, round 2. It's coming up on the other side. TJ and I are back at the half and after the game to wrap it all up on Spurs Live. Enjoy it next here on FanDuel Sports Network.